To be successful, you have to have your heart in your business and your business in your heart. That's a quote by Thomas Watson Jr. Time is precious, time is money, and this is a time for Money Talk on Atlantic Television Network. Good day, viewers, and welcome to a fresh episode of Atn Business on Atlantic Television Network right here in the city of Port Harcourt. This is a network's medium of bringing the happenings in the economic sector of the society to our discerning viewers. This program is aimed at bringing to the doorstep of viewers the business, financial, and economic activities from all strata of society. Its delivery is accentuated through the various stock exchanges across the world, news about government, economic activities, private sector business activities, laced with expert opinions, stakeholders, analysis, and correspondent reports. By the end of the show, you can be rest assured of being informed accurately of financial activities around the world. I am your host, Wendy Aguma. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll read out the details. Welcome back. This is Atn Business on Atlantic Television Network. And now the headlines. Devastating impacts across Nigeria. Nigeria's electricity woes persist. E-commerce giants struggle with consumer slowdown. U.S. economic data boosts greenback's value. The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, has revealed that 27 states have been affected by floods, with 227,494 persons affected and 32,837 houses damaged. NEMA's Director General Zubaida Umar stated that the agency would continue to raise public awareness on solid waste management and clearance of blocked drainages and waterways. The flood has also damaged 16,488 hectares of farmland, with crops affecting farmers and agricultural production. UMA urged state emergency management agencies and community leaders to prepare for rapid flood response and reassured farmers that the temporary dry spell would end soon. NEMA has mobilized efforts to assess the damage and coordinate relief operations with state emergency management agencies, highlighting its proactive stance and readiness to address the nationwide crisis. Minister of Power Adebayo Adelebu has expressed disappointment that Nigeria, with a population of over 200 million, still generates only 5,000 megawatts of electricity. Adelebu stated this while receiving members of the Civic Military Committee on Energy Security, emphasizing the need to address power infrastructure vandalism. He attributed the sector's poor performance to past leaders' failures, citing the use of 64-year-old transformers and inadequate maintenance. Adelebu emphasized the government's commitment to eradicating energy poverty, ensuring electricity availability nationwide, and prioritizing the power sector to drive growth. The federal government has initiated measures to protect critical power infrastructure and provide quality electricity to Nigerians, addressing vandalism concerns with seriousness. The Ogun State government has launched a health insurance scheme for the formal sector, covering civil service, public servants, and workers in the organized private sector. Governor Dapo Abiodun announced that the government would pay 50% of the premium for every registered worker, emphasizing the importance of public servants' well-being. The scheme is part of activities for the 2024 Public Service Week, with the theme Building a Socially Responsive Public Service in the 21st Century, a Place of Ethics and Values. The Commissioner for Health, Dr. Tommy Kuka, highlighted the benefits of the scheme, including financial risk protection against catastrophic health expenditures, and encouraged residents to take advantage of the program. The head of service, Mr. Kayinde Onasaya, and the state chairman of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Hamid Ademola, commended the government for the initiative, urging sustainability and consistency in the program's implementation. The Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dr. Dele Alake, has announced plans for a forensic audit of the mining sector to boost investor confidence and sanitize the industry. Alake made this known during a meeting with Plateau State Governor Caleb Mufwang at the ministry's headquarters in Abuja, emphasizing the need for collaboration to harness the state's vast solid mineral potential. The minister highlighted the importance of addressing abandoned mining pits, which he described as relics of the colonial era, and sought the governor's support in this regard. Governor Mufwang commended Alake's enthusiasm and leadership, expressing optimism that the sector will contribute significantly to Nigeria's The Nigerian Customs Service, Apapa Area Command, has intercepted 12 containers of expired and controlled pharmaceutical products worth 1.8 billion naira. Controller General of Customs, Adewale Adeniyi, disclosed this while displaying some of the seized contraband, stating that the drugs would have undermined national security if allowed to exit the ports. The seized items include expired and regulated medical products such as tramadol, codeine, and other pharmaceuticals imported without necessary regulatory requirements or with false declaration to evade duty payments. Adeniyi commended the command for their efforts and urged port users to engage in legitimate trade, emphasizing the service commitment to detecting concealment and facilitating legitimate trade. The customs boss warned that the service would continue to thoroughly check import and export cargo using non-intrusive measures and physical examinations to prevent smuggling and ensure compliance with regulations. Aviation workers have announced a nationwide strike on August 21, 2024 to protest the federal government's 50% deduction from key aviation agencies' internally generated revenue. The affected agencies include the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, and others, which claim the deductions compromise critical safety activities and threaten the industry's functionality. The unions warn that they will not be held responsible if the aviation industry becomes dysfunctional due to financial constraints and have directed all branches to mobilize for the protest. The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority has cautioned that the strike could disrupt flight activities nationwide, while the Director of Public Affairs expressed hope that the Aviation Minister will engage in dialogue to address the union's concern. The former Secretary of the Joint Aviation Trade Unions Forum emphasized that the protests aim to draw attention to the detrimental effects of the deduction on the safety and functionality of the aviation industry, which is regulated by global standards. Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission has been sued in over 70 cases in the past 7 months, according to its Secretary and Legal Advisor Olayemi Ayanachi. Ayanachi revealed this during a stakeholders consultation on the Alternative Dispute Resolution Center's rules of procedure, emphasizing the significance of the ADRC in resolving disputes in the contentious oil and gas industry. Most of the disputes arose from the 2020 marginal bid round and host community issues under the Petroleum Industry Act, but many have been settled out of court through the Commission's efforts. The NUPRC's Chief Executive Officer, Benga Komolafe, aims to make the Alternative Dispute Resolution Center a pride of Nigeria and Africa, enhancing efficiency, fairness, and effectiveness in dispute resolution within the upstream industry. The Commission spent a significant amount of government money defending the cases, highlighting the need for an effective alternative dispute resolution mechanism to oversee and regulate the industry in a more convivial environment. The Nigerian equity market extended its downward streak for the fourth consecutive session on Thursday, with investors losing 56 naira due to persistent sell-offs. The all-share index declined by 0.10%, settling at 97,100.36 points, while market capitalization dipped to 55.13 trillion naira. The market year-to-date return moderated further to 31.27%, with the month-to-date return decreasing to minus 0.64% and week-to-date return decreasing to 1.52%. Bearish sentiment dominated the market, with 116 listed equities participating in trading, resulting in 14 gainers and 31 losers. Naimet International Pharmaceuticals led the gainers with a 9.55% increase, closing at 2.18 naira per share, followed by Total Energies, AIIC Co. Insurance, and C&I Leasing. On the other hand, Oando led the laggards, suffering a 9.94% decline to close at 32.60 naira per share, followed by APC Transport, Livestock Feeds, Guinea Republic, and Guinea Insurance and CWG PLC. The market witnessed a decline in trading volume, with 271.3 million shares valued at 3.52 million naira traded in 7,233 deals, representing a 14% decline in volume, a 36% drop in turnover, and a 14% reduction in deals compared to the previous day's performance. We are open for advert placements, bookings, and commercials. Stay connected on ATN socials, Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1, X formerly Twitter, Atlantic TV Net. Watch us live on our website, atlanticnetwork.tv. The Securities and Exchange Commission has reaffirmed its commitment to resolving the lingering issue of unclaimed dividends, currently standing at 215 million naira, through technology solutions and improved stakeholder engagement. SEC Director General Ememotimi Agama disclosed measures being taken to reduce the backlog, including the introduction of a self-service portal and a mobile app, which will provide investors with real-time assessment to their dividends and enable them to resolve challenges more efficiently. A specialized committee has been established to oversee the resolution of unclaimed dividends and ensure compliance among market operators. The committee will identify and address the root causes of delays and recommend strategies for more effective management in the future. The SEC also plans to develop podcasts and educational apps to attract the younger generation to the capital market and promote financial literacy and awareness of capital market opportunities. Additionally, the Commission aims to encourage more companies to list on Nigerian exchanges, enhance market liquidity, and attract new investors. The SEC has approved 9 new insurances worth 1.228 trillion naira in 2024, reflecting increased confidence in the market. The Commission remains committed to investor protection, as evident in the recent conviction of a Ponzi scheme operator, and is dedicated to enhancing the operations of investors in the capital markets. Nigeria's air cargo sector faces significant challenges, including an imbalance between imports and exports, inadequate airport facilities, and a lack of aircraft. Despite global growth in air cargo demand, Nigeria's cargo export growth has been weakened by limited available aircraft and declining aviation infrastructure. Industry experts expressed concerns about the air cargo situation in Nigeria, highlighting the need for better airport facilities and increased production to improve exports. The Nigerian air cargo sector is underperforming, with limited scale and inefficiencies in the current system. Stakeholders suggest a strategic focus on domestic agricultural products to revitalize the sector, along with government subsidies to make air freights more viable. Improvements in airport facilities and increased productions are all necessary to support cargo transportation and bridge the gap between imports and export volumes. Nigeria has the potential to triple its existing volume of cargo traffic if it addresses its challenges, with the domestic cargo industry estimated at the worth over 40 billion naira. The growth of the freight business is supported by the rising number of cargo airlines and airports designated as cargo airports. To curb the issues, stakeholders recommend analyzing dominant cargo types, origins, and destinations to understand traffic patterns and make informed planning decisions. Strengthening policies to boost exports, enhancing relationships with other countries, and preparing airport capacities are also crucial to foster new business opportunities and promote the exchange of goods. U.S. Treasury yields declined on Friday as investors digested key economic data released this week. The 10-year Treasury yield fell by over 2 basic points to 3.9035%, hovering around 3.9% level it has crossed on Thursday. The drop in yields came after a surge on Thursday, triggered by stronger than expected U.S. retail sales figures for July. The data showed a 1% increase in retail sales, exceeding economists' expectations of a 0.3% rise. The robust retail sales data eased fear of a recession or economic slowdown as it indicated strong consumer spending. Additionally, weekly initial jobless claims came in below expectations on Thursday, calming concerns about the labor market. Investors are now looking ahead to comments from Federal Reserve officials in the coming week to gauge their view on economy and interest rates. The Federal Reserve's next meeting is in September, and markets are pricing in a rate cut. On Friday, investors will be watching for the largest building permit and housing starts data, as well as fresh consumer sentiment insights. These data releases will provide further clues about the state of the economy and influence Treasury yields. Chinese e-commerce giants Alibaba and JD.com reported disappointing quarterly results on Thursday, highlighting the slowdown in China's consumer market. Alibaba's revenue from merchant commissions and advertising on its China platforms rose by 1% year-on-year, down from 5% growth in the previous quarter. JD also reported a decline in average order value, citing soft consumer spending. The company's focus on higher priced products and next-day delivery has made it vulnerable to changing consumer behavior. Tencent, which operates the popular social media and messaging app WeChat, also reported slower revenue growth from users' financial transactions. The slowdown in consumer spending is attributed to a slump in the real estate market and uncertainty about future income. Retail sales in China rose by only 2.7% year-on-year in July, far lower than historical growth rates. E-commerce platforms are struggling to compete with highly discounted products sold on other apps such as PDD Holdings, Pinduoduo. Analysts say consumers in China are increasingly seeking value-for-money products, leading to fierce competition among e-commerce platforms. However, some signs suggest that the price wars may be easing, with Douyin management recognizing the need to focus on profit margins rather than just low prices. The struggles of Chinese e-commerce giants have deterred some investors, with Michael Burry, known for his prescient bets against mortgage-backed securities, making China internet stocks some of its top holdings last quarter. Alibaba's Hong Kong listed shares rose by 5% on Friday, while JD's shares were up 9%. The dollar hovered near a 2-week high against the yen, following its biggest one-day gain against major pairs in 4 weeks. Firm U.S. economic data alleviated fears of a recession, leading to a surge in Treasury yields and a decrease in bets on aggressive Federal Reserve easing next month. The dollar index, which measures the greenback against 6 major pairs, was little charged at 103.20 after rallying 0.41% overnight. The dollar eased slightly to 149.11 yen, but remained close to Thursday's high of 149.40, a level last seen on August 2nd. Strong retail sales and lower than expected unemployment claims contributed to the dollar's strength. The Commerce Department reported a 1.0% rise in retail sales, exceeding forecasts of a 0.3% gain. Additionally, 227,000 Americans filed for unemployment benefits, fewer than the 235,000 expected. Risk-sensitive currencies like sterling benefited from the improved economic outlook, with the British currency edging up slightly to $1.2859. The euro was flat at $1.0973, following a 0.36 slide in the previous session. The Australian dollar held steady at $0.66106, having advanced 0.2% the previous day after data showed a significant surge in jobs. According to Chris Weston, head of research at Pepperstone, growth is a better sport, and the consensus is again subscribing to the soft landing thesis. He points to 150 yen per dollar as the next level to watch for the currency pair, citing minimal risk to derail sentiments in the immediate near term. You're watching Atn Business on Atlantic Television Network. We will be back after this break. Welcome back to Atn Business and Atlantic Television Network. We are on StarTimes channel 194. You can view live on YouTube. We are open for advert placements, bookings, and commercials. Stay connected on ATN socials, Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network. Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1. X, formerly Twitter, Atlantic TV Net. Watch us live on our website, atlanticnetwork.tv. And now to the rest of our stories. Nigeria's food inflation rate decreased to 39.53% in July 2024, down from 40.87% in June 2024. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, this decline is attributed to a huge base effect and lower food prices, bringing relief to consumers. The federal government has established an Agriculture and Water Resource Joint Action Committee to address food security and inflation challenges. The committee aims to promote dry season farming, leveraging the country's abundant water resources and river basin development authorities to enhance farmer livelihoods and increase production. Minister of State for Agriculture, Senator Aliyu Abdullahi, emphasized the need for all year-round farming to ensure food security and self-sufficiency. The Joint Committee will facilitate collaboration between the Ministries of Agriculture and Water Resources, River Basin Development Authorities, and agricultural experts to achieve food security and self-sufficiency. Experts welcome the decline in food inflation, citing signs of cooling price pressures. Lukman Otunuga, a senior financial market analyst with FXTM, said signs of cooling price pressure would be a breath of fresh air for consumers. Afriverse also projected a decline in the inflation figure due to lower food prices. However, food inflation remains a pressing concern, with some food items like bread and cereals, potatoes, yams, and other tubers, meat and fish and fruits, vegetables recording higher inflation rates. The government's efforts to tackle food security and inflation challenges are crucial to ensuring food availability and affordability for Nigerians. To discuss this matter further, I have with me in the studio the President of Association of Farmers of Food. I have with me the President of Association of Farmers and Food Processors in Rivers State, Chisom Dike. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Wendy. How are you today?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good.
It's good to have you in the studio.
Good to be here.
I hope we have an opportunity to drag you out again.
Oh, of course.
Okay, so based on the food inflation rate, I want to know what are the main drivers of food inflation in Nigeria and how do they impact the economy?
First of all, food production is something Nigeria has to look into very quickly and on time. Food production basically is making food available for Nigerians. For this time, there's a lot of inflation. The food has gone higher due to certain reasons. First of all, the fuel subsidy removal had skyrocketed the price of goods due to the transportation we go through. And most of us that produce food, we have a lot of issues in terms of farming. Like the minister said, food should be produced regularly, every time. But because of the facilities we don't have, irrigation and the greenhouses, we're unable to produce food at all times. So our foods are produced seasonally. So this has caused a lot of issues. It's caused a lot of inflation, insecurity as well, transportation, and the worst of it is the wastage. We waste a lot of food. Some places produce food and they're unable to take the food to the marketplaces on time, and on transit, we tend to lose a lot of food. I can give you instances here and there. There is this community in Benue State that produces oranges. Okay. In fact, if you're driving past that area, you find a lot of trees running into a lot of kilometers with oranges. And you see them have to pay people to shake them off and they're disposed so that new oranges can come up to the trees because there are no people marketing them. There are no industries to make use of those fruits and concentrate them as juice. So we have a lot to go through. There's a lot of misplaced priority. There's also a huge gap between industrialization of the food we produce. So all of these is really causing the inflation and much more as well.
Now, the thing is, we know that Nigeria imports most of these food items that we can actually grow. Now, the question is, how does the country's reliance on food imports contribute to inflation? And then how can we curb or mitigate the country's reliance on importation?
Okay, first of all, our reliance on importation of, I'll call it expensive food, is what has brought us to this level now. You can imagine what the cost of a bag of rice is now. All the way some years back before and those wheat and grains are what you use for your poultry feed, your fish feed, as well as other cereals that we use. So as well as the fertilizers come from countries like Russia and Ukraine. So our over-reliance on all of this has brought us where we are. We can actually produce these things. But again, I don't think the government has done much. We as individuals have also not done much. The average young person wants to run out from the rural area to the urban area. So we've looked down on agriculture completely, and that has brought us where we are today. And as farmers, I could tell you categorically that we have a problem when it comes to labor. There are people are no more available at the rural areas to do these farm processes with us. And we do not have the technologies that we require, no tractors. I can tell you there are few local governments that have one tractor available to them. So it's become a problem because the young ones have migrated from the urban from the rural areas to the urban areas. So we don't have the workforce. So all of this makes it very difficult for us to produce food. We have the landmass, obviously. Okay. We have the landmass.
I want to ask a question.
Go ahead, please.
When you were talking, you talked about Nigerians not patronizing Nigerian-made products.
Yes.
And then you used rice as an example.
Yes.
Now, the reason most Nigerians don't patronize Nigerian processed rice is because it's not clean.
Okay.
It's quite sandy.
Yes.
Though it's tasteful.
Yes.
Okay. But the sand and it's not clean at all.
We're not being patriotic. I mean, if I was in my house and my mom makes a food that is not delicious, of course I'm going to eat it. I won't go outside and say.
But can we not do better?
Yes, we can do better.
So what's stopping us?
When we have the investors investing in these industries or the government coming into these industries, because they are individuals, they can do as much as they can. If I have a rice barn, if I have a rice farm, I'm going to go destone it and all the rest. It involves a lot of capital because I have to buy those machines, and those machines are imported. So when I cannot do them, then I'll do the much I can do by separating them with my hands. So, but when we have individuals, I don't always want to talk about government because we also have individuals that are investing in the oil industry, investing in so many other things. They refused to invest in agriculture. So we would have patronized what we have, and by now we would have grown to the level where we'll be exporting our own rice. Don't forget that the rice that comes in are over 50 years and above, most of them. They're not the best of rices that they bring into the country. But because they have the technology, their government is involved, individuals, investors are involved, and then the people are also planting them. If I would ask, do you farm anything?
Well, I farm vegetables.
Okay, good. But very, very few of us do have the backyard farm in our backyards to produce our own food.
But I still think that if this food items are properly processed. Now you're talking about lack of finance,
yes,
investments and all.
Yes.
So what can be done? How do we get the government involved? You talked about individuals too.
Yes.
I think the reason some of these individuals have not invested because they don't think that is as lucrative as the oil industry. You know, something has to give. Nobody wants to invest where they think they will not get profits.
No, but that might not be the case because before the advent of the oil, we're already doing that with our food products. Countries like Netherlands depend solely on their food production, and they are doing greatly. Their GDP is greater than ours. So, I mean, it's not about it's just that there's a quick. I believe there's a quick return maybe on the oil sector, and then because the government is totally involved, so there's a lot of money to play around with. But when the government gets more involved in the agricultural sector, we will surpass the oil industry. I can bet you that because, I mean, you may stay a full week and you've not gone out, you have not used any petroleum products.
True.
But obviously you're going to
eat.
And we have over 200, if I'm correct, million Nigerians in this country. So everybody eats at least a meal, if not 2 or 3. So when we invest in the agricultural sector, just imagine if there's a functional rice milling plant in River State where we are now, maybe 2 or 3, and we're producing all those rice. You can imagine the number of rice we eat in a day. At least when you talk about livestock, like I hear River State consumes over 3,000 cows on a daily basis. So you can imagine if what the profit will turn out to. You forget about the oil industry if we do it properly. The problem we have is we've not invested and we've not done much. We've not done it properly in the agricultural sector. Otherwise, we'll surpass the oil sector.
So let's look at the government, right? Right now, it's on record that Nigeria has the highest inflation rates.
Sure.
But then I feel like we have the resources. I want to assume that we have the resources to curb this inflation. So my question is, what measures has the Nigerian government taken to address food inflation, and how effective have these measures been?
Oh, well, first of all, we have an ongoing problem now, which has to do with the naira depreciation and then the subsidy removal. That has made that inflation go high, because obviously everything has gone high. And now the government has tried to bring in some interventions. You would hear the President, His Excellency Tinubu, would talk about, he said, emergency in the agricultural sector. I hear them trying to give out soft loans, give out some money to families. But what they've not done much is technology. We cannot produce much if we don't have the technology. Let me give you a vivid example with the family sector section. You know, let's say there's a father and a mother and there are 5 children. That makes them 7 of them.
Yeah.
And each of them go to the farm to produce what they eat. And gradually the 4 kids go urban. And they're left with the mother and the father. And they're also expecting their father and mother to bring the food to the urban area. So fewer people tilling the soil and much more food expected. So when there are no people to actually handle this labor aspect, then we should have the technology. We should have tractors. With a tractor, you could finish tilling over a hectare in one day. But if it's manual labor, we'll do it for almost a month. And how many of us are actually farming? So I think the government needs to look into technology. I've always advocated to whereby we should have the governments, via the local government areas, have tractors available to the local governments, and then farmers can come in and pay a stipend and hire them, use them to work, and return them. With that, individuals don't have to buy a tractor because it's quite expensive. But when the government brings in such things, and then we'll make use of it, then obviously we'll produce more food and inflation will drop. The reason for inflation is because more mouths to feed and less food produced, obviously.
Okay, so we talk about people leaving the rural area for the urban.
Yes.
I mean, everybody wants to get a taste of the urban life.
What for?
You know.
Why can't we have them in the rural areas?
But if the developments we have in the urban areas are brought home to the rural areas, I don't think people will have reasons to leave.
That's where the government come in. But even at that, that's another excuse, because all the rural areas are not completely without government amenities. At least there are some rural areas that have a bit of the good road, electricity, what else? Water. Those are the 3 basic things required. And I think some of the rural areas, it's just a thing that is with us as Nigerians. In most developed countries, I'll quote the so-called, let me use the Nigerian big boys, stay off the busy areas. But here, everyone is crowding to the urban area. You can imagine how crowded, let's say, where we're now, Port Harcourt is, and where some other towns. Well, you live better, you eat better, then you can make more money than sitting idle in the city.
We know that farming is actually a very strenuous activity. So my question is, what policies or initiatives can be put in place to mitigate the effect of food inflation and also make agriculture more should I use the word enticing?
Yes.
Appealing.
It should start with the family, with us, before I talk about the government. Because growing up, I noticed that my mom then had a little farm at the backyard. You could get tomatoes, pepper, and all the rest, okra and all the rest. You don't find them again. So there was this joy when we go out there and then she's harvesting something. You just look at, oh, wow, we're all excited. You don't get that excitement. So the kids we bring up now don't even know anything about agriculture. And in the schools as well have not also helped. I know they have agricultural science in schools, but they still do the old system. Check around anything that has to do with agriculture. Look at the pictures. Is an old man or an old woman with a hat farming. You don't find pictures of the way you have it. You don't have
So the
pictures of
children grow up feeling like
beautiful
agriculture
ladies
is
like
for the
you
old.
in the farm. So they look at it as something for the old, rickety, and poverty,
Uneducated, unexposed people.
But that is not the way it is in the developed countries. So we have a lot of education to do concerning food production. I can tell you as a farmer, I can boldly tell you that the farm industry is something that will actually give you a lot to think about, will also give you a lot of income. In fact, in the farm system, we now use drones and all the rest of them. So the internet and everything, so there's nothing missing. If you go to certain sites, you get certain apps that you can take a picture of your farm and it will tell you exactly what is wrong with your crop, if there's a disease and so on. So we're also using technology. We're also, what the young one sees it, tech. We're also tech.
So it's tech savvy.
Yes, before I go to the government, now the government has a lot to do. The government has not been able to sell the food industry. And again, we are left with normal food production. We've not gone a step forward, which is the value chain. Like I did mention about the orange, kilometers of orange we pass through. If we had the next value chain, then we'd have, the government can come into the area and build a juice manufacturing industry there.
Sure.
So those oranges wouldn't be a waste, and the farmer too wouldn't be discouraged, because he has to actually pay people to make sure they pull out the mangoes for new ones to come in. So it's a problem. The government has a whole lot to do. I can tell you that, let me give you another example. A liter of fuel, it's about 900 naira. A liter of palm oil is much more than a liter of fuel. So why are people not investing in palm oil? And you actually make more gain in the palm oil than in the fuel on the street. But you have a lot of fuel stations everywhere littered all around the city. And you hardly have oil mills. You have one or two of them here and there. And we all use palm oil to a large extent, even much more than the fuel. Because not everyone that has a car or a bike, but we all use the palm oil. I think your lady should correct me if we don't all use palm oil.
Well, everyone wants a white-collar job and running away from the blue-collar job.
It's not. It's actually a white-collar job as well, if you want to make it that way, because we also have people dealing with it.
So the question I want to ask before we go, our time is almost up. Now that we know what the challenges are, what can be done to increase food production and reduce reliance on imports?
Education.
Okay.
Education. We need to educate the populace on the need to go back to food production. The government has also hype up their investment in agriculture. There's a program that was done sometime in 2003, where it was said that every country should put in at least a tenth of its budget to agriculture. Nigeria is yet to do that. We're still within 1%, 2% of our total budgets for food production. Again, so all of this needs to be done. The government needs to actually go local government by local government to invest, not just the big talks on TV. They should also actually call the real farmers. They should have a round table discussion with the real farmers. Most time when they bring in interventions, you find out it goes to politicians or go through political parties, and you find out that it misses its direction. It doesn't come to the real farmers. If the farmers have what they need, they will produce the food because they are there to make the business. And then again, the government should look into how we can produce food all year round. Wow. And that requires irrigation systems. Irrigation systems are quite expensive, so the government needs to subsidize this irrigation system, greenhouses. And the worst part, another issue that we have is the banditry and the kidnaps and so on that you find out in the farms. Most farmers, especially in the northern part of the country, actually have to pay to go to their farm. They have to settle. I use the word settle before they go to the farm. And then the flood in this part of the country is another issue, whereby we experience flood. During the flood time, we can't plant anything, and our crops are washed away, our livestock are washed away. So all of this intervention from the government and from other people that can invest, as well as the education that we require, will really help us produce food more abundantly.
So you're saying that if the government focuses on educating people,
the populace,
the irrigation process, food security, and everything you've listed, chances are that Nigeria can start producing food almost enough to feed us.
And export, actually.
And export too.
Yes, because we have all it takes. We have the manpower, we have the land. We just don't have the mechanism and the support from the government. Otherwise, we shouldn't be importing food.
Okay, so this is where we wrap it up on this edition of Atn Business on Atlantic Television Network right here in the city of Port Harcourt. Thank you so much, Mr. Chisom. It was nice having you here.
Thank you. But before I leave, I would like to encourage us to have a backyard farm in our area so we can produce our own food.
Okay. So you heard that, have a backyard farm and produce your own food. That's a coping mechanism for food inflation. My name is Wendy Aguma. We are open for advert placements, bookings, and commercials. Stay connected on ATN socials, Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic Television Network 1, X, formerly Twitter, Atlantic TV Net. Watch us live on our websites, AtlanticNetwork.tv. Peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you for watching and good afternoon.